Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour, and today is Thursday, September 9th, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's listening, joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free at whyagain.org. If you go to that webpage and click on the Start Here link in the upper left-hand corner, it'll take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? That chapter of that book contains a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 17 years to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships and turn any negative emotional experience into part of the infallible guidance system that each of us has been given. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself. It's a simple PDF file download. Print it off, use it as often as you'd like. You can also download a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one where people have been stepped through the worksheet process and or they've called in with powerful testimonials about how the application of those tools, active application of those tools in their life has improved their quality of life. You can also go to your app store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. And before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you download that, it'll give you access to a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet, an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. And we hope people do that soon and often because it quite frequently leads to questions or comments or testimonials. And if you have that, give us a call at 563-999-3581 and press 1, or send us an email, Jeanie at Jeanie at whyagain.org, or you can send an email to me at tjh at mindshifters-academy.org, and we will address your comments or questions in the show, and you can listen to them through the archives. We're also doing the Course in Miracles lessons this year. In the workbook lesson, today is the 252nd day of the year. The title of the lesson is, The Offspring of Creation is My Identity. My true higher self is wholly beyond all the thoughts of holiness of which I now conceive. My true higher self has a shimmering and perfect purity that is far more brilliant than any light I have ever looked upon. Its love is limitless with an intensity that holds all things in it in the calm of quiet certainty. Its strength comes not from burning impulses which move the world, but from the boundless love of the Creator, and how far beyond this world my true self must be, and yet how near to me and how close to the creation itself. Creator, you know my true identity. Reveal it to me, I who are your offspring, and so that I may awaken to the truth in you and know that heaven is restored in me. And the Course in Miracles experiment, Lesson 252 from Pam Grout. She titles Lesson 252, 76 Trombones in the Thought Parade. And she quotes Pico Iyer, who said, the mind places footnotes and second thoughts where once there was simply radiance. Our mind places footnotes and second thoughts and qualifications where once there was simply radiance. Pam writes, words, Language and thoughts are my stock in trade. To admit they're mostly irrelevant might just put me out of a job. Lesson 252 calls them burning impulses which move the world. It reminds me that words and thoughts are pawns of the ego, deliberately used to muck up the radiance. Today, I want the radiance. Today, I want the limitless love. I remind myself every hour that my thoughts are electrical impulses. No need to underline them with yellow highlighter. No need to endlessly wallow or examine or take them seriously. Today, I watch my parade of thoughts from the sidelines, recognizing they're only electrical impulses, and I wave fondly to them as they march on by. So that is our Course in Miracles workbook lesson for today and the Pam Grout commentary from Course in Miracles Experiment. And we have, as usual, about 50 minutes to entertain your comments or questions. Discuss something you might have heard on the show yesterday, where there was quite a bit of monologue, and then near the end of the show there was some processing with one individual in particular, which carried over into Michael's show. So our call-in number is 563-999-3581. Call that number and press 1, and we can have a conversation. Today is a Thursday, which means there'll be a support group tonight available through the Internet on Zoom for anybody who's interested. It's free. Information about how to join us will be available on the website at mindshiftersacademy.org. And my mind just went blank. I was going to add something beyond that. Tomorrow, I will be playing an interview that I did earlier this year with Dr. Andrew Pleener. He is an integrative psychiatrist out of Florida, and he is the clinical director for the mental health psychological aspect or factor from the samehereglobal.org website. All one word, SAMEHERE global, GLOBAL.org. And so that'll be available in the archives after tomorrow. I will be here in the morning to read the Course in Miracles lesson and intro that interview and then let it go. It's about a 40-minute talk. And I recommend it. I have been trying to curate out some of the more, I think, interesting and useful interviews I've done from Journey's Dream throughout the past year and a half and try to make those available to the Mind Shifters radio audience. And tomorrow there's just enough going on in my schedule that I thought it would be better for me to take a 40-minute break. I'm scheduling another interview and patients, and so I will be here for the beginning of the show and intro that work and then share that interview with you. So if you're interested in that, or you know somebody who would be interested in listening to a very bright integrative psychiatrist talk about his work and the work of Same Here Global and how that all got started and what it's trying to accomplish, tune in tomorrow or tune into the archives after tomorrow and share that with anybody you think might be interested. It's a fascinating story to my eye and ear that the founder of Same Here Global was a very successful gentleman who had a lot of stress, and instead of anybody addressing the stress, they looked for physical problems that might be causing his physical symptoms and found nothing, and pursued that process for years until finally somebody said, "Oh, it's all in your head. Here's 5 medications. Take these and go home, and don't bother us anymore." And that's a slight exaggeration, but the idea that it was 5 medications is not an exaggeration. And he was devastated by that. You might call a bit of news or prognosis. And it wasn't until after all of that occurred that he found himself in the office with an integrative therapist who started asking him about the stresses in his life and his childhood and his traumas and taught him some breathing techniques, and his life turned around. And he started working with some integrative treatment specialists, and with the hope that came from turning his life around, he began to put together this website, samehereglobal.org, to try and help others who might find themselves in a similar situation. So that'll be tomorrow's show. And for today's show, we have plenty of time to talk. What's on your mind? 563-999-3581 and press 1. Any comments or questions about what you might have heard on the show yesterday or the processing that was done at the end of our show and moving into the second hour with Dr. Michael and Jeannie Ryce. I had occasion in the last session to talk to somebody about this comfort in my own skin. This is one of the ways I talk to people about this most often. Is health is one thing, relative health. In our culture, we talk about health, and basically what we're talking about is the absence of any obvious physical dis-ease. And yet, if you talk to a functional medicine specialist or an integrative medical specialist, that's not their definition for health. And they will be talking to you about some level of optimal health and well-being and energy level, etc. And when I talk to people about that in the context of the psychology and the relationships of one person to another, I frequently talk about being comfortable in one's own skin. And the more comfortable I can be in my own skin, the more likely I am going to connect with, be attracted to, and be attractive to other people who are comfortable with themselves. And that's the recipe for a more rewarding life and for healthy relationships. Many people have a discomfort within themselves. They're not so comfortable in their own skin, and they think the answer to that discomfort or displeasure is a relationship. And what they find over and over and over again is it doesn't work. I can't be uncomfortable in my own skin and reach out to another person for a healthy relationship and expect the relationship to be healthy when I don't even like myself. How could I expect that somebody else is going to like me when I don't even like myself? And most of the time, they don't, and that's what happens. That's the root of the discomfort in most relationships is not that my partner's unhappy with me, but in truth, I'm running from my own unhappiness, my own displeasure with myself, my own negative judgments, my own belief that I'm not lovable. And as long as I run from that, I drag it with me everywhere I go, and it becomes the baggage that drives my perception and therefore drives my interaction and relationship and produces the unpleasant results that I'm going to the therapist to help me get rid of. And it doesn't usually work. The therapist doesn't have a magic wand, although many of us wish that he or she did. And so what's the solution? The solution is to remove the things within me that make me dissatisfied with myself. The things within me that leave me operating from a belief, a negative belief, and therefore we know it's false, that I'm unlovable, I'm damaged, I'm broken, etc. And we have tools for that. We have the reality management worksheet. We have the 3 early memories of conflict. We have the targeted journaling that Michael calls the mind shifter. We have the mind goal management sheet. Every one of these is available absolutely free on the website, whyagain.org, and click on the Start Here link. When you get to that page, just start scrolling down, and you'll see all of these worksheets listed. Why would I want to do that? Why would I want to do this work? Well, because it's the work I do that puts me into a different type of experience that let's say it helps me usher myself into a new type of an experience. And it's the experience that we should be going for. You know, one of the benefits of being in a community like this and having this internet show is that when we start talking about this stuff, other people are out there reading their own things, and then they hit something that they think I might like, and they send it to me. And Susan Bingham sent me this thing this morning that's from Richard Rohr. Richard Rohr has the Center for Action and Contemplation. And if you sign up for it, they'll send you a daily meditation. And so today's meditation is titled Participatory Morality. And this is exactly the kind of thing that we get if you tap into Dr. Michael Ryce or Dale Allen Hoffman or Guy Finley or J.M. They're talking about having an experience, working with your breath, working with the tools, changing what the beliefs and your experience of yourself from the inside out. So you become a practitioner of whatever works for you. And this, apparently there's a category that this article is under, and the category is titled Life as Participation. And Richard writes, Jesus' message of, quote, full and final participation, close quotes, was periodically enjoyed and taught by many unknown saints and mystics. It must be admitted, though, that the vast majority of Christians turned Christianity into a set of morals and rituals instead of the all-embracing mysticism of the present moment. Moralism, as opposed to the concept of healthy morality, moralism is the reliance on largely arbitrary purity codes, needed rituals, and dutiful requirements that are framed as the prerequisites for enlightenment. Every group of people and individual usually begins this way. I guess it's understandable. People look for something visible, something that's seemingly demanding and socially affirming to either do or not do. And they look for that instead of undergoing a radical transformation that will assist them in touching the heart of the Creator, the heart of God. It is no wonder that Jesus so strongly warned against public prayer, public acts of generosity, and visible fasting when he talked on his Sermon on the Mount. That you can find that from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 6, verses 1 through 18. So Jesus warned against it, and yet that's what most people in religion do, and they say they're doing it in his name. Richard goes on to say, any external behavior that puts us on high moral ground is always attractive to the ego because, as Jesus would say, you've already received your reward. Moralism and ritualism allow us to think that we are independently good without needing the love and mercy of the Creator and without being of service to or really deeply engaging in anybody else or with anybody else. And the truth is, that's a far cry from the full and final participation that we see the teachings of Jesus or Yeshua offering. So we have this carrot and stick approach to religion, and it reveals the fact that one is never quite pure enough, holy enough, or loyal enough for the presiding group. Obedience is normally a higher virtue than love in most religious circles. This process of managing my sins has kept us, the clergy, he's a priest himself, has kept the clergy in business. He says, hiding around the edges of this search for moral purity are the evils that we've readily overlooked. And then he lists a whole bunch of evils. Everything from slavery to exclusion of LGBTQIA people and the destructive of native cultures. He writes, almost all wars were fought with the full blessing of religions, Christians and others. We have, as a result, what some cynically call, quote, churchianity, close quotes, or, quote, civil religion, close quotes. We have that in place of deep, transformative Christianity, or the teachings of a man named Yeshua. The good news of an incarnational religion, which is a spirit-based morality, is that once you do that work, you're not motivated by any outside reward or punishment. You're motivated by the participating in the mystery, capital M mystery, of life itself. Carrots are neither needed nor helpful, for it is the Creator who, for Creator's own loving purpose, puts both the will and the action into you. That's me changing a few words from a quote in Philippians chapter 2, verse 13. It's not mere rule-following behavior. Rather, it is our actual identity in creation, in God, in life, that is radically changing us. Henceforth, we do things because these things are true and loving, not because we have to do them or because we're afraid of punishment. Now, we're not so much driven from without, which is the false self method, but we are drawn from within, which he calls the capital T, true, capital S, self method. The generating motor is inside of us now, instead of either a lure or a threat from outside of us. This alone is converted Christian or converted anything. This is the true spirituality. This is doing the work to remove everything that's less than love, remove everything that has constriction resistance, anger, fear, sadness, hurt, guilt, shame, bitterness, resentment, any of those negative emotional states. Remove that energy from my system, and what is there for ready access is this beyond words radiant energy of creation expressing in form in this moment. If some would call spirit, some would call the great comforter. The name is irrelevant. The experience is what we're going for. And anything that you find that helps you slow down, open your awareness to your true nature, and help you actively remove anything that's less than that from your conscious logical mind or your physical body's energy system, etc., is something we would want to support you in using. Anything that helps you step into this two-prong approach of opening yourself.
That they're the problem in my life. The mind goes, oh, so you've been through this 87 different times with 42 different people, but you don't want me to show you any of that evidence that shows you that it's about you. You want me to really make a convincing story or case for it's all their fault. Okay, I can do that. And the evidential mind will do exactly that. When do we wake up from it? When do we address those energetic patterns that literally are at the root of our financial, our relationship, our physical, our emotional, and our mental diseases? And we live in a culture that says, I'll give you a pill and I'll get rid of your mental disease. Well, I'll also get rid of your mind if I give you that pill, because what that's going to do is shut down some function in your structure, which is always going to lead to more disease processes. But, I temporarily feel better, so hey, let's go for it. Well, we're offering, if you're taking that approach, that can be really helpful. And it can end a lot of suffering, or at least, what should I say, ameliorate a lot of suffering. But in the end result, sooner or later, you've got to deal with it. And so we're suggesting that you take these tools, lay them alongside your treatment regimen, put them to work, and watch how life changes. So that's what we're here to support. And we're delighted that you're here with your listening ears, and we would love to hear your sweet voice.
You were created. That goes beyond your ability to know it, just as it goes beyond your ability to understand when you were created and how. And getting the negative thoughts, the false negative beliefs, and by the way, every negative belief is false, getting them out of your system clears the space for you to see clearly and accurately who you are. And when you're in that space and you open your eyes and your perception is not distorted by the filters that are created by negative emotions, you see far more closely, you see far more accurately what's actually happening in the world around you. And when you do as Krishnamurti would suggest at times like that, and you ask to be shown in the moment what's yours to do, when you live in direct observation and direct response to what's there, and you don't have the distorting filters up of anger and fear and sadness and guilt and ego and trying to be this or that for somebody else's pleasure, and then what happens is life acts on you and you respond intelligently with an intelligence that goes beyond your conscious logical mind. And you're living in the moment in intelligence and in connection, and it's an energy field that just feeds. The giving and receiving happens in one breath, and it flows. And you don't need to ask yourself, how did I do? Did I do a good job? Did I do a bad job? You don't need to continually reevaluate the events of your life in the past, whether it was 2 moments ago or 20 years ago, because it'll be done. It'll be done in wholeness, in completeness. It will be a part of the flow of life. And you'll know without any doubt, without any questioning, that it's done, and it will. One way to talk about the core of this work is for me to clear up anything that might distort my perception, anything that might lead me to think I'm in danger, when we know at the deepest level of our awareness and existence is who we are can't be hurt. The essence of what we are is, the way of Mastery's way of talking about it is loved, loving, and lovable forever. And it can't, that, from that space of feeling the truth of my nature, I can't be motivated to do anything that's harmful to myself or anybody else. I love when Dale Allen Hoffman talks about the original Aramaic word for whatever it got translated into Greek and then Latin and then English, but the word is faith. And he talks about how a valid definition for that word is the process of taking an action from the rooted center of my being. Well, the beginning is not taking the action. The beginning is getting in touch with the rooted center of my being. The beginning is getting a creative energy expressing in form, in, through, as, and around me. So you've got this idea that Michael Ryce calls total, perfect, conscious, active, present love. And, you know, as I worked with that over the years, I came to realize, well, every one of us is always total, perfect, active, present love, because that's all there is. Extend and amplify the positive, the loving, the creative. And that's what we're here to do. You know, one person might say, well, I'm here to solve world hunger, and somebody else might say, well, I'm here to end wars, and somebody else might say, well, I'm here to be like Christ. And in essence, all of those things are accomplished when we remove the false perceptions, when we remove from the mind field, the field of energy that we call mind, as Michael Singer would talk about it, any of the roadblocks, any of the samskaras, any of the holding on, trying to stop the flow of life, or any of the pushing away, trying to reject the flow of life. When we do that work, our lives get better. When we do that work, we remove the possibility that we could speak or act in a way that directly wounds or creates upset for another person. And that's faith. That's getting in touch, consciously in touch with the rooted center of my being prior to taking an action. So area code 803, you're in the air. Who do we have?
This is Chris from South Carolina.
All right, there's some background noise. I could barely hear that. Who is this again, please?
This is Chris from South Carolina.
Chris from South Carolina?
Yeah.
How can I support you, sir?
Yeah, y'all doing readings today?
I'm sorry, that's not what we do on this show. What we do is talk about the ancient Aramaic process of forgiveness and tools to help improve our perception and life quality. We don't do psychic readings.
Oh, okay, thanks.
All right, blessings. So we have 20 minutes left. As far as I'm concerned, that's plenty of a monologue. What's your comment or your question? How can we support you? Susan, welcome.
Hi, Dr. Tim. Sorry, I just got on. I didn't hear your monologue because I was in a session with a woman that I think you should interview, and she already said during the session that she would love to do an interview with you. She is sort of like Diederik Walzak insofar as, because of her own life experience, she has created a kind of work that is so much like what you and Michael do, and yet it's almost as if she takes the patter part of it and has found a way to bore in and bore in and bore in with a client so that I've never seen anything like it. I had a session with her. It was a complimentary session because I won this. It's a long story, but anyway, I got a free session with her and thought, oh my gosh, what will we talk about? Well, it was a Zoom session that was supposed to be an hour, and it went for almost an hour and a half. Not that she always does that, but her work is both similar to and different from in ways that I'm sure you would find very exciting. And I told her about your and Michael's work. I told her about the radio show. And I'm going to send you her contact material. Her name is Mira Rubin. And she's in my time zone. She lives only about an hour from our house here where we live. But she would love to interview with you and also give a demonstration session maybe over the radio show with someone who'd be willing.
What's the spelling of her first name?
Mira, and her second name is Rubin. Just a really bright, interesting, creative person who I think you'd enjoy doing an interview with for Journey's Dream podcasts, and also have her maybe even do something on the radio show if you wanted to go in that direction. You and she would decide. But you're often asking about people, and I didn't know her well enough to know whether I would recommend her. But after one session with her, I can say she's really dynamite.
And is her website Core Connection, your Core Connection?
Yes, it is. Did
Okay.
you know about her before?
No, I just looked it up. I was,
good for you.
A big part of the monologue today was the Richard Rohr meditation that you sent me.
Oh, sorry, I missed it. I'll have to go listen.
So I appreciate that. Is there more you want to say about that, or just want to leave it that you'll make the introduction and we'll follow up from there?
Well, if you have her material, how would I make the introduction? Do you want to get in touch with her, or what should I do to make it facilitated?
Just send an email that copies both of us. I mean,
okay.
You somehow or another have the, you got access to her because you had a session. So whether you want to, send an email that copies both of us, or you want to send, the direct contact information. When I go to her website, it's a contact form, and I never know if those, get through very quickly. And
right.
As long as she knows it's not a cold call, that'll save a lot of energy. So.
Oh, yeah, it will. I know what you mean. Yeah. Sure. Okay, I can do that.
So I look forward to making that contact. I was letting people know at the beginning of the call, and I was going to mention it again near the end, so here we are. We've got 15 minutes left. That tomorrow I will do the Course in Miracles lesson and then introduce the interview, and I will play the interview that I did with Dr. Andrew Pleener, who is an integrative psychiatrist with the Same Here Global.org network.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a good one. I did listen to that.
So, any thoughts, comments, questions about yesterday's show or today's show, what little you heard here at the end, or some other topic you want to turn us on to for the last 15 minutes?
No, I really don't, Dr. Tim. I'm sort of blitzed from the session I had with her. I think I'm in an altered state here.
Okay. Well,
so
if I were in a place like that, I would probably get off the phone and start making notes before I lost too much of the juice or the content of the session.
Right. That's a good idea. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
I look forward to getting that email from you, and I will follow up as quickly as I can, and I'll look forward to meeting her.
Okay, great, Dr. Tim. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you for the input from Richard Rohr and this new lead. Blessings.
All right. Good. You too. Thanks.
So we have 14 minutes left. We have plenty of time to answer a question or take another suggestion about someone we might interview for the either the Journey Stream or the Mind Shifters Radio. We want to continue to explore ways to clear everything that's less than love from our energy system. And the good news is, once we do that, this thing that Michael Ryce calls TOPCAP, that's my initial for it, TOPCAP, total, perfect, conscious, active, present love. And the good news is, I don't have to do anything to make that happen. It's already happening except for the conscious part. All I have to do to be in direct connection to this total, perfect, active, present love, which is my existence, is get the roadblocks out of the way. Way of Mastery says that. Course in Miracles says that. You don't need to go searching for love. You don't need to build it. You don't need to create it. You are it. All you have to do is remove the obstacles to your vision, to your direct experience. All you have to do is identify and remove the false beliefs. How do we know they're false? They're negative. Any negative belief about yourself or the world around you is false. And once you remove what is false from your perceptual mechanism, we call it the mind, but it really is this, Michael Ryce calls it, the carbon-based memory. It's this computer-type hard drive thing in our heads that all it can do is record what's put in it and then play it back out. It's not your true self. It's not your mind. It's simply a record and playback device. And when it has recorded and downloaded upsets and fears and self-loathings and labels of yourself as less than, those, every time they're activated, will distort my perception. And my job is simply to clarify my perception. And once I clarify my perception, I see the world as it actually is, and there aren't any interfering filters between what actually is and my true self, then life acts on me and I respond to life, and the flow is beyond words positive, beyond words creative, connected, congruent, flowing. We use these words trying to point in the direction of that experience, but it's beyond words, and it goes beyond words every new heartbeat. So, the invitation with this work is pick up the tools and start using them, because that ability to see clearly your true essence and to live from that awareness is what most people would call enlightenment. It is available to everyone. And again, the whole boatload of tools is available at whyagain.org, whyagain.org. And if you go to that page and click on the Start Here link, upper left-hand corner, and then once you get to that page, just start scrolling down, and you'll see a whole list of worksheets that are free to print off and start using. And then if you've got questions or comments about them, give us a call. That's why we're here in the current format, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. And there is a growing archive of shows. I think Michael has quoted something like in the hourly totals, it's like over 3,000 hours now of recorded material. And to find your way through that, the best thing to do is to go to what Jeannie has curated out on that page as some of the highlight shows. I was introducing the reality management worksheet to somebody last week, and they came back for a session this week. And the way I introduced it is I do the 5-step mental short version, and we talk about it and have them practice it for a week or two before we expand to the 7-step worksheet and the downloads off of Michael and Jeannie's website. And he came back and said, okay, this really looked great, but then what? What's the point of all this? And it was a pleasure to be able to say, I'm glad you asked that question. Go to this website, check out the archives, look for these highlight shows, and you'll be off and running. So, area code 760, you're in the air.
Hey, this is Ann in Florida. So I'm trying to process what you were talking about as far as coming from that place of love, which I believe in. I do the work. So I'm having trouble coming up with a goal, so I thought if I tell you what just happened, because I went offline because my daughter called, so I took the call while I was on, this call. And so I'm trying to come up with the goal or the feeling that I can start the wake-up sheet with. So she's getting ready to go on the plane. She's already on the plane, just waiting for it to take off for them to say, hey, turn off your cell phones kind of thing. And she's flying out to Spokane where my son and his family live, so grandkids out there. And she proceeds to tell me, well, do this, have your phone on, I'm going to get everybody together because their schedule's crazy and, our schedule's, and I find myself come back with, without trying to be negative, there's that without, but saying, okay, I do have some things that are going on in the next, few days, and so I'll try my best. And so then she'll keep going and say, well, Mom, but they're more important. And I keep trying to, I guess, defend that. So I'm trying to figure out the feeling. I know it's frustration, but I guess I don't know. What do you hear?
Well, I'm aware that if you're stuck trying to identify the feeling, you might go with the thought or the goal to get you in. What's the thought you have, or what's the goal that you have when your daughter is telling you, but Mom, these other people are more important? What thought comes to mind?
The thought comes, here she is telling me how to run my day, or, because it's
so when your daughter tries to tell you how to run your day or what's most important in your life, and you have that thought, she's trying to tell me how to run my life. What's the emotion?
I want her to stop it, so that's more the goal.
Yeah, right. We'll have a more positively stated goal when you get there, but it's going to be resentment or anger.
Yeah. I think it's the resentment, because it's like it starts to get inside my body. It starts to come up in my chest, and and then I have to sigh, and then it's like, oh, this is happening again. Perfect line for Michael's book.
What happened before, and what was the goal before? In previous worksheets, when you've had this resentment because your daughter is trying to tell you what's right, what's wrong, how to run your life, what has your goal been? What's the positively stated goal?
Respect. could you just respect what I am doing, that I can take care of myself? Something like that. It's
okay.
Like,
well, you can start with that. You can start with, I want her to respect me. I want her to honor my ability to choose my own actions. I want her to respect my ability to make good decisions for myself. Now notice, as each one of those comes out and I cancel them, I will get a slightly different response because there will be slightly different energies, beliefs, thoughts, and emotions lodged in my mind from my past related to those slightly different versions of the goal. So you might want to do all 3 of them or 4 of them in goals in separate worksheets, just to see what is in your mind energy that's connected to these negative emotions around such a loving goal. I want my son or daughter, I want my friend, I want my sibling to trust that I am competent, that I can trust my own decision-making, that I'm competent to live my own life. That's a loving goal. Wow, how did I get so much negative emotion connected somewhere in me to that loving goal? So every time I change just, even one word in that goal, it's going to go to a different part of my mind and perhaps reveal a different set of interactions from my past or a different set of traumas or a different negative belief I hold about myself.
Yeah, I think and I'll re-listen to this because there's quite a few there. I think what I have been trying to do is like one of those pseudo solutions that Michael talks about, trying to figure it out, and I keep wanting thinking that I'm going to go to the stepfather thing, or something like that. And it's like, well, how do I know that if I don't do it? If I don't do the work? If I just keep running it around in my head?
The answer is I won't ever know until I do the work.
So at least I identified that. I just keep rolling around. Okay, which is the whole theme, of his work. Why does that keep happening to me again? Because I keep running around in my head trying to figure it out. Okay, perfect. Well, that was a good breath. Okay. I feel better just knowing that. Yeah, nothing like being confirmed that, you just keep doing the work. But, getting it on paper. Okay, I'll re-listen to those because they were all great, and a couple of them, the emotion was a little stronger than the other. So, okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, you're very welcome and deserving. Blessings. I will remind us all that we come from love. We're made of this stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Jeannie Ryce.
Thank you, Dr. Tim. And I'll have to go back and listen to the meditation.
Well, it wasn't really meditation. It was Richard Rohr has a daily meditation newsletter. If you go to his, Center for Contemplative whatever, website is the Center for Action and Contemplation. Richard Rohr, R-O-H-R.
Okay.
And the daily meditation that was, that they send out in email, Susan Bingham sent it to me. And so as part of the monologue today, I was going through it. And it's about the difference between trying to do something to get holy and having an experience of being whole.
Oh, that's good.
All right. Have a lovely show.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate you.